So, hello and welcome to the KickBack Football Podcast, the third week on the bounce of the new series, A Look Ahead. So, we looked at West Ham United last week, and we're going to be looking at Brighton and Hove Albion this week. So, we're looking at the top. Well, we're looking at the three teams who just avoided relegation. So, we looked at Villa the first time round, West Ham, and now Brighton. We've got David Astill with us as well today, who you may have seen on the Outside the Box podcast. It's still the only episode of that I've done. I'm trying to find some people to go on there, some new guests and everything. So if you've got any suggestions or if you'd like to appear on it and you've got something football-y to talk about, then yeah, go ahead, let me know. Today we're going to be talking about Brighton, as I said. So if you want any suggestions put forward for the following weeks, we're not entirely sure what we're doing when we finish this series. This is basically like the third one of the three, essentially. So I don't know whether I want to look at the teams who have just been promoted and see what they need to do a similar kind of thing with those teams, or do something totally different. So do let us know what you think would be a good topic for us to do in coming weeks. So TOB_football, that's our Twitter handle. So you can DM us there or tweet us. And yeah, you can find us on any of our socials, which will all be in the description as well. So Lewis is here as well. How are you today?
It's just the normal, really. Like, it's been the same, except this week and last week I've just gone out a few times. So
that's good.
Just keeping that routine going.
It's good to do. I've done that. I've either been staying in way too much or being out way too much.
Yeah.
And there's not really been an in-between. It's just about finding a balance, really, isn't it? How about you, David? How have you been keeping?
Yeah, I've been keeping well. You know me, lots of sports writing and whatever. Just keeping very busy. There's loads to do.
Yeah.
The time when we're doing all the transfers and things like that. So looking ahead to the new season. So yeah, very busy doing lots of stuff.
Sounds good. So David writes for Total Football Analysis and also the site lead for Total Rugby Analysis. So we'll leave all of those links down below as well. So you can check those out. Some really good articles on there, whether you're interested in football or rugby. It's a great site. I've subscribed recently, actually, so I could read everything because I get a lot of stuff from there, actually. So
good to hear that.
Yeah, no, definitely a bit of a free advert for you. So we'll start off, I suppose, by talking about Graham Potter. So Graham Potter, obviously the Brighton manager, quite an interesting manager, quite an innovative manager in many ways. He's been known for his kind of community activities and that kind of thing that he gets the players involved in. He obviously managed in at Östersunds for a very long time, came back to the UK with Swansea and then to Brighton as well, obviously where he still is today. Tactically, quite versatile, doesn't really stick to one kind of set of tactics. And that means that I think he benefits from players who are very tactically versatile, can kind of have many different facets to their game. So we're going to be looking at a few positions that I've personally highlighted that they need to strengthen. But firstly, if we take a look back at their season just gone, their defence was quite strong. So they only conceded 54 goals, which, isn't incredible. But that's the same as Chelsea, who obviously finished in fourth. Kepa obviously had an absolutely shocking season. But they also conceded fewer goals than Everton did, fewer goals than West Ham. So not too bad, less of a problem area. But up top, I believe it was only Watford and Norwich who actually scored fewer goals than Brighton did. So that might tell us that there's a little bit of strengthening to do in attack as well. David, have you got would you kind of agree with that in terms of their season being a bit of a mixed bag, being kind of overall a relative success, relatively tight at the back, but they just need a couple of key areas strengthened ahead of the 2021 campaign?
I do. I mean, I think we should probably point out that even though they scored so few goals compared to other teams, that was still their highest number of goals they scored in the Premier League. So that in itself is an improvement, but obviously, as you quite rightly said, they can still go further. But But I think what Graham Potter's done is now given them a base, because Chris Hughton was a bit more defensive. He tends to sort of stay a little bit further back and try and, rather than go and get a few more goals. And yes, that might have, I mean, obviously last season we saw that, you know, they're very close to getting relegated, but I think more solid, whereas now they've got that solidity. Graham Potter's said, okay, we've got that, but we're going to go and get the points now rather than trying to win them by just stopping other teams scoring. So that's why he brought in Morpay, he brought in Leandro Trossard, Aaron Moy, who's kind of given them that base to then go on and attack, because we saw what he could do at Huddersfield. He sort of sits in front of the defence and plays that ball around. But I think, you know, he's really given them the platform now to go and attack. And as I said, they've got the most number of goals, got the most number of points they've ever got, and the highest finish they've ever got. So overall, it was a good season. But again, like you said, there is still scope that they can now go further. And I think they will now they've got that base, and Graham Potter's have got one season under his belt. He'll now say, right, I've got one season, here's Ross Adam Lallana. So they'll get that quality now in the final third as well, and that experience. So I could definitely see them going further now, yeah.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with that. It looks like, obviously, when a new manager comes in, you know, it's when you finish in that league position, you often will see a team kind of improve and obviously go up the table next season, or on the other hand, they can be pulled further into a relegation battle the following season if they don't strengthen in the right areas, that kind of thing. But it seems like Graham Potter's kind of got it all sorted, and he knows what he's doing. Obviously, they've been relatively active already in the transfer window. They brought in Joel Veltman from Ajax for, I believe, about 900k, which I think is an amazing deal. So just another little bit of strength to their back line there. He's obviously played in the Champions League with Ajax. He's been there for a long time. He's just kind of seen himself pushed out of the starting lineup a little bit over the past couple of seasons. And obviously the big one is Adam Lallana coming in from Liverpool. He's just going to add a little bit more experience to the midfield. I think he's definitely going to be a huge presence in the dressing room as well. He seemed like he's very well liked at Liverpool, and obviously he has some incredible experiences in terms of winning the league, albeit as a bit of a bit part player season just gone, but also Champions League as well. So I think they've been very shrewd so far in the transfer window. Lewis, how important do you think the signing of Adam Lallana could actually be next season in terms of just having that extra experience? I'm presuming he's going to be the most capped England player in the Brighton squad. How do you think that's going to impact the squad?
I think it's going to have quite a big impact, because not only has he got that experience, but he's got that experience at the top level with Liverpool. And considering that they just won the league, he can kind of bring that winning mentality to Brighton. And I think the fact that they drew the most games in the league last season with 14, I think just bringing in a player like Lallana with that winning mentality could maybe push a few more of those draws into wins, which getting those extra couple of points instead of dropping. And
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the connection not doing too well again today. Not as bad as last week. But yeah, I think that's definitely a valid point that it can. I think he is the kind of player who can kind of inspire. He can kind of push a team on, give them that little bit extra in terms of, you know, you might see a team kind of shut off slightly if they concede a goal, and maybe they were winning 1-1. They were winning 1-0, and it's come to 1-1, and they kind of shut down. And he's that guy who can probably inspire them to go on and get maybe like a last-minute winner, that kind of thing. I think obviously Neil Maupay has had a relatively impressive season as well. He's definitely been a good signing for them. He's been linked with a few clubs already, but I think obviously Glenn Murray has dropped off this season. It's no surprise. I think he's 36 now, Glenn Murray. So I think probably what they really need most desperately is somebody to be that foil to to Neil Maupay up top, and kind of like a long-term Glenn Murray replacement, I suppose. David, have you got any kind of suggestions in what areas of the market they could be shopping in if they do want that kind of complementary player for Neil Maupay, or a long-term Murray replacement?
I think Ollie Watkins would be a good signing. He's obviously been linked with a lot of clubs. We know what he can do because we've seen at the Championship, 25 goals or something like that this season. He's already proved that he can play as a winger or as a striker because he started off at Brentford as the winger. And then when Maupay left, he then became that sort of number 9. So he's versatile as well. So he could play as a front 3, front 2, 4-2-3-1 and play on the wing or down the middle. Obviously, he's got goals in him as well. And I think Brighton know that going to the Championship is a safe place because obviously they've got Maupay from the Championship. So, they Matt Clark, who obviously spent the season out on loan at Derby, has done all right. He was probably one of Portsmouth's best players over the last seasons. So they know that going into the lower leagues is not well. It can be dangerous, obviously, because you just don't know if they're going to suit the Premier League. But I think Watkins would definitely be a good option, and certainly he's at a good age where he's still got years left in him. So as a long-term replacement for Murray, he would certainly be an option.
Yeah, I think. I think Ollie Watkins is such a kind of solid suggestion because of that versatility for, probably most of the teams in the bottom half of the Premier League would benefit from somebody like that, in terms of just somebody who's got that pace and can drop back, kind of receive passes to the feet, but also play on the wing, drop to the wing, drop back to a number 10 position as a starting position, because I think he's done that as well before. So he's kind of got everything you need in a modern day striker. I did look at a player as well. He's actually already a Brighton player called Victor Gyökeres. I don't know if that's how you say his name.
Yeah.
But he was on loan at St. Pauli, the team in the German second division last season. I don't know whether he's ready. He only scored 7 goals and got 4 assists last season for the German outfit, but he's showing signs of kind of developing into a player that could be useful at Brighton. I think he's 21, around about 21 years old. And he has 0.66 goal contributions per 90. I think that was by the start of May. And also his key pass numbers are decent as well. But I think maybe he would benefit from another loan, potentially to a Bundesliga club, or maybe to a Championship club, that kind of thing. Just because, his numbers aren't indicative yet, I don't think, of a player who can start in the Premier League. But obviously Callum Wilson, potentially a suggestion as well.
Yeah.
It was rumoured, he was obviously relegated with Bournemouth. It was rumoured he'd be available for around 10 million, but then yesterday I was seeing shouts of 30 million. So I think that's going to put a lot of clubs off due to his injury record, and maybe you could go out and get somebody a little bit younger, spend that money a little bit more wisely. But I think if he is available at a cut price, Callum Wilson, or even Josh King as well, also from Bournemouth, could be decent shouts. The guy that I've actually gone with in a striking position is a guy called Darwin Nunez. So he plays for Almeria in the Segunda División, so the second tier in Spanish football. He's 21 as well, 6'2", Uruguayan striker. And the reason that I went with him is because he has that perfect versatility that would suit Graham Potter's kind of style of football. He is 6'2", so he can kind of fit into that target man mould if that's what they do need. So he can play as a sole striker, say if Maupay is on the bench or if Maupay's injured. But he can also drop back a little bit, receive passes, pass the ball on, catalyse attacks, and get other players around him scoring a little bit more as well. In a similar way to Ollie Watkins has really at Brentford. He's seen himself linked with Valencia and Benfica already this summer. So he's got that combination of strength and pace. He's kind of got everything in terms of he would be able to play a number of different positions as in that attacking role. So I think he would be a very interesting one. Obviously, again, there's a little bit of a risk there. I believe they got Leonardo Ulloa from Almeria way back. So I think that's right. I'm not entirely sure. But
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
yeah, I thought so. When I kind of put the names Almeria and Brighton together, there was something clicked in my head. I was like, that looks familiar for some reason. But yeah, maybe that would be a shout. Lewis, do you think that is the priority, or do you think maybe there's another area in the pitch that they need to look at as well, that could be a little bit more important?
I think going more attacking is probably the main bit, because obviously scoring 39 goals, it's just above one a game, and also mainly if you're going to turn those draws into wins, usually it's kind of just one more goal you need. And obviously with someone like Lallana there as well, they can kind of push the team on to get that. But I think they could also, something I saw yesterday was for them to kind of just get maybe a couple of young midfielders, because I think their midfield isn't too old, but it's kind of getting like some of their players are coming towards the end of their prime. So maybe getting a couple of younger midfielders could help kind of bolster that as well.
Yeah, especially when you're bringing in Adam Lallana as well, who also fits into that age bracket of being, maybe past his peak, you would say, but still definitely a very good player in terms of his impact.
If not right at the end of his peak.
Well, yeah, true. I think that when you have that many injuries, it can be like really difficult, can't it? It's gonna be interesting to see whether Ben White stays at the club as well. He obviously had an absolutely amazing season at Leeds on loan, and they've been promoted. So I think Leeds are still very interested in getting him on a permanent deal. But I'm pretty sure that there are going to be a lot of other clubs in the Premier League who want Ben White, and you could say that he'd definitely be beneficial to Brighton in terms of, I think he would be deserving of a starting spot. But then they do have Shane Duffy, they've got Dunk, they've got what is the name of the other guy? Webster. Dan
Webster,
Burn. Yeah, Dan Burn, who's been deputising as potentially the tallest left back I've ever seen. And then obviously Veltman as well. So with the addition of Veltman, they would then have kind of six centre-backs who you'd say were probably pushing for a starting position. David, what do you reckon the future holds for Ben White? Do you think he should be somebody who's one of the first names on the team sheet at Brighton, or do you think it's a good time for them to cash in, considering they're already quite well stocked in that area of the pitch?
It kind of depends on Lewis Dunk, to be honest, because there are reports that he's being linked with the move to Chelsea for about 40 million. So I think if Lewis Dunk goes, then the door's opened up there for Ben White to claim a place. Whether he gets it or not, or whether they go with like Webster and Veltman, or Webster, Clark, Veltman, somewhere in those three, that's to be seen. But I think certainly if Lewis Dunk goes, then they're going to need someone of Ben White's stature who has proven that he can play at that level. Or certainly Championship level, going up to Premier League level. There's every opportunity there that if Dunk does go, that White can stay in. I think if Dunk doesn't go, then maybe White needs to go. But I mean, he's been linked with Liverpool, United, City, Spurs, Arsenal, Chelsea. Literally, pretty much every club in the Premier League is looking at him. Obviously, Leeds as well. I think it's a price of about 30 million is being kind of floated around for him. I think, to be honest, if Dunk stays, it's entirely up to Brighton, obviously. I don't think it would benefit them seeing what happens, to be honest. It's a tricky one because, as I say, it just depends on what happens with Dunk. But that may not happen until like deadline day, in which case it might be a bit too late to then, But I think certainly if Dunk goes, I think there's a place for White, and there's certainly an opportunity for him to fight for it.
Yeah, I think it's a very difficult one. It's almost a similar situation to what Man United have with Dean Henderson as well at the moment, where they've obviously De Gea's not had maybe the most incredible season of late, but he's still categorised as one of the best keepers in the world. Do you cash in on Dean Henderson, or do you keep him at the club? Because De Gea might continue to decline from now. We're not entirely sure. So it's a massive dilemma when you've had a player out on loan who's been so incredible and been so important to the team they've been out at. Another position on the pitch that has been highlighted, I've seen in a lot of reports, is left back. Obviously, as I said, Dan Burn, who is traditionally a centre-back, has been playing in that left-back role, and I think he's about 6'6". He's not done badly, but I'm not entirely sure whether that is his natural position. He doesn't look quite at home there, not just because of his height, because obviously being tall doesn't mean that you don't have any technical ability. But I just don't know whether he's the long-term solution to that position. And it doesn't look like Graham Potter kind of has total faith in anyone else. There have been links with Ainsley Maitland-Niles from Arsenal, which I think is a really interesting one. I think from Arsenal's point of view, maybe it's a bit too soon to get rid of him, because they have been building around these younger players. Obviously Bukayo Saka's been playing an awful lot. Martinelli, when he's been fit, has been playing, and there's a number of other players. And Nketiah's had a fair amount of game time. I looked at a few other players as well who might be available at left back. Max Lowe from Derby County. He often gets overshadowed by Bogle, I think, who's the right back at Derby. But Max Lowe just consistently putting up very good numbers. Quite quick. He has decent defensive numbers as well, so he has that versatility that Potter might like. A cheaper option, possibly. Obviously, I said before about how Callum Wilson might be up at 30 mil now, but Diego Rico, who's from Bournemouth as well, has a bit of bite to him. He's a little bit aggressive, which I think is a good thing a lot of the time. They've already got that in Neil Mopai. Just have a little bit of kind of aggression in the squad isn't necessarily a bad thing. But Diego Rico's had a solid season for Bournemouth, and kind of has that versatility as well, where he's been defensively solid, but also offers a little bit in attack. A guy that I looked at who's actually really interesting is Liberato Kakache. He's got a great name as well, but he's from New Zealand. 19-year-old New Zealand left back playing at Wellington Phoenix. And we're seeing a lot of, we're seeing a fair amount more than usual of players from New Zealand coming to Europe and succeeding or looking very promising. Sarpreet Singh being one who went to Bayern Munich and has been loaned out, I believe, already this transfer window. But he's looked really good in the limited minutes he's had. Kakache has already been linked to a host of clubs in, I believe, the Netherlands and in Belgium as well. And whether he would be an instant impact, I'm not entirely sure, or whether they go for somebody who's maybe got a little bit more experience in the league, like Maitland-Niles or Rico. I'm not sure. David, do you have any suggestions for left back, or are there any other positions that you think might also be a priority, and just any other players who come to mind when you think of Brighton in terms of potential signings?
I think left back is certainly the one area that they probably do need to strengthen, certainly need to give some attention to for the reasons you've just given. It would be good. What was his name? Liberato Kakache, was it? Kakache?
I think it's Kakache. Yeah, it's like Cacace. Yeah.
Fair enough. From what you've just said, he would suit them. Yeah. I think Ainsley Maitland-Niles, if they can get him, I think it'd be more of a loan deal, because I think Arsenal won't want to sell him, but they might want to just say, you know what, we've got other players in that position. Maybe he could deal with just some regular minutes, loan him to Brighton for the season. That would probably suit both clubs, to be honest. And obviously Maitland-Niles can get further forward as well, so he could play as a winger if they need him to, or more of a wing back. I think also, Brighton have got Tariq Lamptey, who has shown that he's an attacking right back. He likes to get forward, cross the ball in. So having someone on the left-hand side who can do that as well, just give him a little bit of balance as well, maybe do that. But I think, I think left-back's probably one area that they do need to strengthen. The centre-back we've talked about. I think they could probably do one more if Dunk goes. Right back, I think they're okay because they've got Lamptey and maybe bring one in on loan perhaps, but there's no emergency stuff to do there. Midfield we talked about. I agree. I think you've got Moy, you've got Basuma, who I like. He's not obviously shown a lot of what he can do. What he has shown, I think, is promising. I think he just needs to get a run of games, and he's sort of player that doesn't necessarily score the goals, but he makes the passes or he makes the movements that often creates the space, and does the sort of the dirty work, if you like, not the glamorous stuff. So I like Basuma. I think if he gets a run of games, he might be able to show a bit more what he can do, but unfortunately he hasn't got a run of games at the moment. But I think as it's a central midfielder, perhaps needed there to just bring the age down a little bit more Premier League experience, perhaps. You've got Dale Stephens, who's barely played this season, so someone in that position would be good. Attacking midfield, well, you've got Alexis McAllister, the Argentinian who they had out on loan and then they brought back in, and he's been given a number 10 shirt for this season Premier League and be a big part of that squad. You've got right wing. You've got Trossard, who can obviously play anywhere, any wing or down the middle. So in terms of those positions, I think they're all right. And then also got Morpay. You've got Murray. You've got Aaron Connolly, who has shown this season he's got real promise as well. So I think overall, it's just a case of just adding little bits here and there. But there's no major surgery to do on the squad. But as we said, it's just about adding a few more goals, a little bit more youth in the field and Premier League experience, a left back perhaps to to complement what they've got in Lamptey, and a centre back if Dunk goes. That's really all that they have to do. And anything other than that is a bonus, I think.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. It seems like it's kind of a running theme with the three that we've done, Villa, West Ham and Brighton, where in terms of actual transfers coming in, it really is kind of 2 or 3 key players who would massively improve the team and just give them that balance. I think Brighton finished the highest out of these 3. They finished in 15th, I think. No, yeah, 15th. Yeah, they finished in 15th, West Ham 16th, Villa 17th. So obviously they've done a little bit better than those 2 clubs. So you'd expect that they would have potentially you'd expect them to have fewer problems than West Ham and Villa. And I think they probably do. As you said, guys like McAllister, Connolly, I think there's Stephen Alzate as well, who's appeared in bursts. And they do have some decent young players. It's potentially Lamptey as well. Obviously came in from Chelsea. They do have these younger players who do look very promising. I think maybe add 1 or 2 more of those and then get your nailed on kind of big striker. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but I think the big striker, small striker combination might work really well under Potter. I think Mopai is that kind of pacey, kind of buzzy little striker. I think he's about 5'7". And then if you bring in somebody to complement that, as I said, I would go for Darwin Núñez possibly, but they might want to play it a little bit safer than that. I did look at a guy called Kadewere as well, but I don't know if he's going to be available. He was played for Le Havre in the French Ligue 2. He was signed by Lyon in January and then loaned back out to Le Havre. So he's only technically been a Lyon player for since January, so I can't see them necessarily wanting to get rid of him at this point. I suppose it depends if they keep hold of guys like Dembele and Depay. Maybe they'll want to start him or play him from the bench. But yeah, I'd say things are looking quite promising. Lewis, what's your prediction for Brighton next season? Do you think there'll be another relegation scrap, or do you think they can push a little bit higher up the table? And what league position do you see them finishing in?
Personally, I think based on the fact that that they brought in a new manager this year, I think you could kind of expect them to finish a bit lower. So I think next season they can be pushing more up towards the mid-table mark. So I'd probably say anywhere around 12th for me.
What about you, David? Do you think 12th is a good suggestion, or do you think that things could go wrong potentially and they could end up slipping a little bit further down?
I think like that, I agree with Lewis. I think if they push on, it'll be sort of a couple of places more, score a few more goals, they might win a few more games, and they'll get the points they need edge a little further away. I don't think there'll be any relegation scrap. I think Graham Potter's a good manager and he'll keep them away from that. We saw this season, a lot of people said, well, after Chris Hughton went and they basically were in a relegation scrap until like the last day. And a lot of people said, well, Graham Potter has no Premier League experience. They'll be down there again. And actually they've been kept, they might have been just above it, kept just above it. And you haven't once said really that they were going to go down. I mean, there are a few games where you thought they could sneak into the relegation zone here, but really we've said overall they've been kept away from it. I think they will do that again. So yeah, I completely agree about sort of 12th, 13th, perhaps 14th. Just kind of sneak a few more places up the table. Yeah.
I'd actually completely agree with that. That's what I was going to say. Kind of, maybe just like 2 or 3 places up the table, and I think that's good progress for Brighton. They can't obviously be expecting to push towards any European spot or probably even the top half at this point. It's a kind of work in progress situation at Brighton, and that's acceptable because they've got a new manager. They're still a relatively new Premier League team as well, really. So yeah, I think things are looking up for Brighton fans. Any Brighton fans who are watching or listening, make sure you let us know what your thoughts are. Obviously the comments on YouTube, try and start getting some of those in maybe, and also Twitter. It's a good place to get hold of us as well. So any final words from you, David, before you leave, and anything exciting happening on Total Football Analysis or Rugby Analysis in the coming weeks?
Well, rugby, obviously, Premiership's back, so we're back doing loads of writing and stuff. I got an article out on Monday which looked at why Sale failed against Gloucester, despite Sale being second and Gloucester having Harlequins. Why Sale struggled against Harlequins and why Harlequins, who are just outside the playoff places, managed to beat Sale. We've got more games this weekend and more midweek fixtures starting from next week as well. So there'll be plenty of stuff coming up there. If anyone does, by the way, want to get involved in rugby union or rugby league analysis, then just send me a message. I'm happy to introduce myself and add you to the team. Football, just same old, to be honest. We're just going through the summer, looking at all the transfers. We've got people in various leagues, so we're covering all the leagues, MLS, Liga, La Liga, Serie A, Liga, and all the big ones, all the way down to like Scandinavian football, or I'm on the women's football team. So, the Women's Super League starts very shortly, started next month. So we're all looking forward to that. But all is good.
That sounds really exciting, actually. I've been looking at some of the women's pieces that you've done on there before. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of the site. It's definitely worth checking out. As I said, that's going to be in the description. And any final words from you, Lewis, before we finish as well?
Well, not particularly at the moment, but I kind of I think, I'm not sure if I said this last time, but at the moment, I kind of just want to go back to uni. I didn't think I'd ever hear myself saying that.
No, I actually re-enrolled this morning. Yeah, it's been dragged out quite a long time now. It feels like a long time anyway when it's May until September, but being March till September, it's kind of
it's like
been dragged out a lot. So thank you to you two for coming on, and thanks for listening or watching wherever you are. We will be back next week with a podcast, probably, if we come up with a good idea. We want to get kind of the best sort of ideas that we can. So if we can't come up with anything, there might not be one. But we'll obviously keep everybody updated on Twitter, probably on the Facebook page as well, which is TOB Football. As I said, every link is down below for you. So thank you for listening, and we will see you again soon. Cheers.